It's time to get a little bit vulnerable. Today, we're going to talk about ADHD and being a creator, managing this, navigating this, working your way through this, uncovering what this really means for you as a creator, and a little bit about my journey along the way. So, hey, creators, Eamon here, and this is where I help creators go full time. And, we get philosophical from time to time, hence the channel name, Creative Philosophy. So let's get straight into it. Firstly, a little bit on my journey, I kind of always thought that ADHD and a lot of these disorders or just ways that brains operated didn't really exist, right? Just assumed it was nonsense and people were just making things up to play the victim, right? Oh, how silly was I? But it took me 28 years to figure out that actually a lot of the symptoms I kind of identify with a lot of those things. And if you're a creator or a creative, I'm in the music industry. I've been producing music for 10 years and DJ a lot of music festivals in my state and around the country. And I would say a very high percentage, I don't want to put a number on it, of people that I know in the music industry have ADHD or at least have display symptoms of ADHD, right? Drinking green tea today in one of my trippy cups. And it's a little bit hot right now, okay? So we're holding it. And it's funny because it's obviously been quite a bit of a hypey thing on social media over the last few years, gotten much more popularized. And so that's a little bit of a dangerous thing because there's probably a lot of people that are identifying with symptoms and coming out and saying that they need the medication and need the diagnosis and all this sort of stuff. There's a bunch of reasons why people might try and fit into that under that umbrella, for example, but that's kind of not what we're talking about here today. But the positive side of that, because there's a lot of negatives about that, that's not what this video is about. The positive side of that is that it's bringing more awareness to the topic, right? And so me, for example, I always had 4 or 5 projects on the go. I would get obsessed with one thing, which is called hyperfixation, for 8 months and go hard, learn everything, learn all the ins and outs, absolutely crush that thing. And then just one day I'm like, I don't do that thing anymore. I'm kind of sick of that. I'm doing this thing now. Now hyperfixate on the next thing. And, my symptoms or whatever are going to be different to everybody else's, of course. But always I was a high achiever, right? And the thing about ADHD is, or people that run with high dopamine in their brain is exactly that. People, they're driven by dopamine, right? And there's a really great evolutionary biology reason for this. And this is kind of really helpful to understand if you're a creator. Because the reason for this evolutionary biologically, is that the right way, is essentially this is going to help you survive. Because if you're always seeking novelty, like dopamine is new things, you're always seeking things out, you're going to find the blueberries in your caveman tribe, right? You're going to be like, all right, guys, let's adventure to the next cave. Let's see what's there. It could be more cover and better place for a fire. And, and if one person out of 20 in the tribe was doing that and the other 20 were normal or had different ways of thinking, then all of these modes of thinking and ways that brain operate would work together to create a better outcome and everybody would survive, right? So that's the adaptive mechanism for why some brains are born this way, right? And so it's a really positive thing. It's just that it's not harnessed very well in the current capitalistic society, right? It's not really advantage because it's just in this day and age, it's you do this thing and that's all you do and then you get money for that thing or whatever the circumstance, right? But as a creator, you're neurodivergent. You have different ways of thinking. And so you're not thinking in the normalized way that everyone's thinking. And this is very advantageous to you. It's a superpower. But the thing is, you have to harness it. Because if you don't harness it, then you could be stuck where I was for a very long time. And it wasn't a bad thing. I really enjoyed, and I still let myself hyperfixate on different projects. But they're not the most important projects in my life, right? The main thing where I'm making my most money, my business, I'm all right, this is the number one thing that I have to stay focused on. And this is where my creative life systems come into play. You can check out my courses in my in the description. They're super cheap, and this will literally turn your life around if you identify with anything to do with ADHD. If you can implement these systems, that's a little bit better. But yeah, it's just nuts because, like, I mean, it's fantastic again, it's been normalized. But if you feel like you've always been misunderstood, you've always been different, and you never really knew why, you just didn't really connect with people in the same way that you seem to see other people connect with each other, and you're always off doing your own thing, you're always kind of like looking out for yourself, you're always like seeking novelty, you're always hyperfixating on a particular project. And again, I am not claiming to be any sort of specialist. I'm just also bringing light to this as a creator, because if you want to be a full-time creator, for example, and you struggle with any one of these things, there's a lot of people that say the classic, like, oh, I can't even clean my car, can't even vacuum my floor. And it's like, yeah, I mean, again, I don't want to get into what is and what isn't ADHD or ADD or any of this sort of stuff, but there is a lot of people that are kind of leaning towards claiming to have symptoms so that they can not be held accountable for their actions and not actually be disciplined, right? But that's not what we're talking about here. That's not you, right? Because it's like there is elements of, like, sometimes you can't actually do things, and you can do things, and you miss particular things. And, you know, even from grade 2, the teacher's like, yeah, he's great at listening when it comes to art, but when it comes to maths, he just doesn't listen to anything. And I'm like, I thought I was listening the whole time. What are you talking about? So it's just a lot of the time, what we're actually focused on is the only thing that we're actually interested in, and we can get very hyperfixated on that. Music, for example, is a big thing for me. Creating, for example, big thing for me. Put me in front of a camera, an editing system, I'll edit all day, 12 hours a day, and I'll blink and it's nighttime. But yeah, make me solve other kinds of problems, like to do with maths or something, and I'm like, nah, get out of here. So, but yeah, the really important message that I'm getting across here is that it's like, chances are, if you're a creative, you probably have some element of neurodivergence. And doing the deep digging to actually figure out where that comes from. Why are you actually like that? What exact symptoms do you display, and why? And this comes from a lot of therapy, a lot of deep diving on yourself, because when you can understand the fundamental, like, base concrete layer of how your brain operates, then you can kind of add on top of this like structure, this building, right? But a lot of people, they're just like putting this house of cards up, and then it falls down, and like, damn, I've got to start again. Why does this not work for me as a creative, you know? But yeah, understanding that very root layer of the building. If you like that analogy, I just pulled it out of nowhere. And that's really going to, help you actually get set up so that you can stay consistent, so that you can understand where your values actually lie, so you can have a clear vision of the future and you can actually execute that vision, because you're constantly reminding yourself of what's actually most important in your life. And but yeah, the biggest thing is to actually just understand your brain and how it operates as a creative, because I've found extreme power in that. And again, I've only just turned 30, my guy or my gal, whoever's listening. And damn, I wish I was armed with a lot of this knowledge beforehand. And I was so close-minded, and I just didn't really, I was just like, no, that's not real. You know, people are just making that up. None of that's, you know. But if I was armed with this knowledge earlier on in life, armed with this knowledge of actually understanding how my brain operates, why it operates in the particular ways that it does, then I would be much further along in the projects that I really wanted to be further along in. And again, I go into great detail about how you can structure your life in a very easy way and with a very cheap product in the course, and the link in my bio. There's a few other courses there as well. You can check that out. But yeah, and those things have really helped me actually get set up. And it's just so disappointing to me that I'm, almost 30. And this is the other thing. You probably beat yourself up a fair bit as a creator. And that's something I'm always working on. But will I get there? Who knows? But understanding is the key, really. And yeah, just bringing more light to this scenario and being open-minded about it, because when you can understand your evolutionary biology, your psychology, why you are the way you are, then the rest of it is going to be much easier, because you can harness that superpower rather than just being like half superpower, half feel like you're a homeless person or something where you just like cannot do anything properly. Just because your brain operates differently to how the world says you should operate, essentially. And that's okay, because that can get you very, very far in life. But again, you just have to understand yourself. So that's just a little bit about my journey. Again, I'm not claiming to be any sort of expert on anything. But yeah, hopefully you've gotten some value out of this video, and I'll see you in the next one.